I think the funniest thing about the flat earth is that we all believed it was a globe for so long. I think that's kind of the funniest thing about it, you know? It's so blatantly obvious. It always, honestly, maybe that's why I really did think science, even growing up, was ridiculous. Like, not because I couldn't pass the test, because it just kind of goes against, like, the whole movement thing. Oh, we're moving so fast and billions of miles, and even when they show it from the ISS spinning, I don't know, it looks, and then when they say, oh, you wouldn't feel it, it looks like it's spinning pretty decent from the ISS. I mean, depending on what, you know, what you're watching, because sometimes it's spinning faster and slower, and, you know, so it's totally ridiculous to take that as real anyway, real imaging. But, I mean, give me a break. I just think it's funny because, you know, when I go outside on a clear night, I can look up and I can name a good, now I'm up to like around 20 stars I can name. I can look up and go, oh, there they are, boom, 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 boom. So to me, and the more I read about the ancient people, okay, the Sumerians, even the Babylonians and the Egyptians and all these people, all right, all these ancient people, they were looking at the same stars that we're looking at today because they drew them, okay? They drew the same constellations that we have today, which means they're looking at the same stars. So if we're endlessly going through a galaxy, I mean, forever and ever, and there's supposed to be all these things happening and we're moving, and, well, it certainly doesn't seem like it. I mean, none of the ancient civilizations believe that, because they all understood that the civilization before them used the sky as a navigational tool, as a timepiece. They used it for many things. So they all understood that we weren't endlessly spinning through a galaxy, okay? Once you understand that the sky is a clock and that the sun is on a circuit and goes around us in a circle, which is why the Bible talks about the earth being a circle, which is why a boat that goes around the ocean doesn't go around the globe. It does something called circumnavigation. It's not global navigation. Circumnavigation. They're going around a circle, okay? Flight paths prove it. I mean, so much stuff proves it. It's just almost hard to keep track of the amount of stuff, honestly. But the problem is you actually have to really dig in, do the research. Google's going to be a nuisance. It's going to do nothing but provide you with crap. Unless you know, you're looking for like world record long distance photos where, you know, where I've done videos on these. You can see mountains from hundreds and hundreds of miles away where there's supposed to be thousands of feet of curve, miles of curve, and you can see these mountains perfect. No problem, no curve, nothing. It's sad. But people want to like either troll the internet because they're like, they grew up on Star Trek and Star Wars and they just hate to admit that they've been lied to, or, you know, they don't want to do the research. But the fact of the matter is, this is tied in. They managed to tie space into your belief system. That's what the elites of the world that control the narrative and control the situation, they have managed to tie, you know, your idea of space literally into a human being's belief system. And when you're able to, and that's through alchemy, because when you're able to transmute a human mindset from one belief system to another, that's it's a magical process. I mean, that's an amazing thing to be able to do, because ultimately that is like the deepest set of brainwashing you could possibly get on somebody, you know? And they've done it. They did a good job at it too. Really impressive. So the problem is, you have to be able to, number one, have a massive amount of humility to admit to yourself that you have been had, and the whole thing, you've been fleeced. And that's the hardest part, and most people can't get over that. But if you're able to get over that and really do your homework, yeah, you'll come to nothing but the conclusion that the earth is flat, you know. And or even I'll take that I will say that the earth is hollow before I'll say it's a globe. Honestly, in my opinion, I'll say it's a whatever else people want to say. Honestly, it's not the shape of, it's not a spherical object. Okay, it's not floating around magically in nothing land. Okay, that's number one. That's the mistake that people are making, that this up above us is nothing land. It's not nothing land. It's all connected to us because it's been the same star set for thousands and thousands of years, probably since the beginning of time. We're obviously in a system. We live inside of a closed system, just like Bill Nye said, actually. Remember? I've made a couple videos about that. He admits that in a few videos. He says, what the kids today need to understand is that we live inside of a closed system. Sorry, I'm not an impressionist. But what I gotta say is that this video is my opinion. However, my opinion is based on a lot of different things. I mean, long distance photography. It's based on the fact that you can make a sundial at home, and the only way to recreate how the shadow moves across the sundial is by using a light source that goes around in a circle. That's the only way it will ever be able to work, a sundial. So sundials are really cool, you know, proof of a earth that has a sun that is going around just like this, around. And see, what happens, in my opinion, is the reason we have seasons. People say, well, we have seasons on a flat earth model. It's a real simple system, okay, for seasons are easy to explain, and I'll explain it without even showing you a video because it logically makes sense. All right, in the summertime, the sun is as close to the northern hemisphere as it's going to get. All right, it's coming as close to the northern hemisphere as it's going to get. And what it's doing is it's circling and going out and circling just like this around the whole earth. Okay, just in a pretty much perfect circle. Not quite though. You'll understand what I mean later. So it's circling, and what happens is at the summer solstice, and this is also why the sun, because it's as close to the northern hemisphere as it's gonna get, it's colder in the southern hemisphere. Okay, this is why the southern hemisphere has their winters when we have our summers. All right, now what happens is after the summer solstice, which is like June 20th, the sun starts to, every day by 1 degree angle on a, and this is on a sundial, but every day by a certain amount, the sun begins to head back to the southern hemisphere. So it's taking longer circles, just slightly longer, going around the earth slightly longer, which is why our days in the northern hemisphere begin to get a little shorter, because the sun is now going to the southern hemisphere. Now this all happens day by day by day. The sun keeps, every day it sets a little further south, a little further south, and it's just circling a little further south, a little further south, a little further south, until December 22nd. On December 22nd, what happens is the sun has reached its furthest point south. This is the peak of the summertime in the southern hemisphere. Okay? So now what's happening is this is the peak of our winter. All right? The winter is just begun. The sun is as far away from the northern hemisphere now as it's gonna get. So on December 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, the sun actually goes out to the same distance. It goes out to the same spot at the northern hemisphere. Literally the same spot, which is why they've made temples where you can go and watch the sunset in the same position every single year. That's what the whole winter solstice is. Why the winter solstice is significant is for so many reasons. I mean, the Christians celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, but you know, Gnostic celebration and really esoteric people that just celebrate what the sun is actually doing, because the sun it had died for the 3 days that it set in the same spot, because the ancient people realized the sun, this is as far as it's gonna get, you know, and it stays in that same spot for 3 days. They learned this on sundials. So they said that anything that doesn't move for 3 days is dead. Okay, on December 25th, the sun begins to come back to the northern hemisphere by a little bit every day. So this is why now, although we're in dead of winter, and the way that the sun works, because it's a radiant heat, which means it heats surfaces by radiating them. So what happens is, now that the sun has traveled all that way, now the earth is solid, it's hard, it's cold as shit in the, you know, because in New England and in the northern hemisphere, period, because the earth is frozen. So it's gonna take a while, and it does. That's why January and February are brutal, because the sun is still far away. Granted, it's turned the corner and it's coming home, but it's a journey. It's a long way home. But that is what the sun is doing. It's circling back now to the northern hemisphere, which is why the days in the southern hemisphere begin to get shorter, in all the same story all over. And then it does this, it's been doing this forever, since the beginning of time. Okay? Now, what also people don't realize is the ancient civilizations, they were able to predict eclipses, and they did not believe we were on a globe. That is for damn sure. But anyway, if you want to learn, you can go to check me out at my website if you want. You don't have to, witthesun33.com. I love you all, and this video is my opinion based on, you know, a lot of information. This is what Jordan Maxwell teaches. There's a lot of books about this type of stuff, and I own a lot of them. I have a lot of them. If anyone wants to know which reading material, what they need to look at to see the information, or to read the information that I have put out here, feel free to ask. Love you all.